This video is not for persons under the age of 13. By watching this video, you are declaring that you are above 13 years of age. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of this painting. It's the Union of South Africa steam train, which is an A4. If you want to go back and look at how far we've got up to press, I've done the first video, which was the background. But we're going to concentrate today on getting the steam train actually painted. And what this has is it's a green train, but there's already a lot of green in this. So we're going to use different types of green so that it doesn't get over green in the painting. So that's what we're going to make a start with. The first thing I'm going to do today is spot out a little bit of detailing around there, because the majority of what we want done is done on this. It's fairly background stuff and you really don't want it to have too much work done to it. So what I'm going to do is just try and emulate some kind of as though there's bits of light coming out of windows or something like that in a very dark area. I think that might do it. Just get a piece of rag and see if we can bring it up. And there you've got like strands of light there. That's what we want. The top of that is fine, I like it like that. It's fading off into the background. And the tops of these trains, which is the first thing I'm going to do, is like a greyish brown. Now I've got a bit there I need to do. So what I'm going to do is bias it slightly towards the green, but obviously make it a brown. So let's get some paint down. So I've got a mixture there that I'm happy with. Let's just make it a little bit more wet. That goes there. And again I'm going to bring that along there. Now this here, this is the coal tender. Right, so I'm going to put some initial dark colour in there. And it saves a lot of time later. And while we're doing bits of dark area, we shouldn't really use this brush, but give the suggestion that there are little bits of dark near where the wheel's going to go. That's by no means the darkest area yet, and we're going to make a separation between that bit of the train and the tender, like that. And that also will have a similar kind of thing between the main engine and the tender. Like that. Another area that has a dark area added to it is on top of the engine, at the engine part there. And I'm going to loosen it up a little bit, make it a bit more watery, and that's the first bit that's going on there as well. It's a bit grey there because what happens is smoke comes out of there and it falls back down onto the top of the engine, so that ends up getting quite sooty at the top, even though it's a nice polished kind of greeny colour, that soot accumulates at the top of it as it falls back down. So I'll try and now put my first green in, and I want these greens to be quite unnatural, like a man-made green. You might call it like a viridian. So wet that, make it nice and wet, and that's going to go right over there, and it comes down to there. With that, because there's a lot of light hitting the top of that area, I'm going to add a blue to it to make it slightly more turquoise. And then let's see if we can bring a green up. And I'm doing it in deliberate sections like that, because it does have like little split off areas. This so we can add a little bit of blue round here as well, just to create a bit of interest. And that will almost be that particular part of it done. Just go around here a bit. This bit here at the front is a black kind of colour. We'll just go back to the tender and we'll wash in a bit of blue there, and then we're going to go back to that bottly viridian kind of green. Avoiding that little bit of a, it's an emblem that sits on top of it there. One last little bit to do with that green. It's there. But I don't, at this moment in time I'm not going to go any farther than that with it. Just while we're making the colours for just blocking in, I'll see if I can get this. There's that there, and then there's a bit of work like that. Last little bit to go, and I'm going to go so we can get that a bit stronger. A few more bits, and I will have to leave this to dry before I go very much farther with it. So that's what we'll do, we'll leave this bit to dry, although I might as well get the early elements of dark in that, and I'm going to make a really dark brown with brown and burnt umber and some of that green that we've got, and especially here it's going to be dark. And less so at this side because light's leaking round to it. So just do bits of detail in there, and then I'm going to wet my brush with just pure water, and this one will be less dark, but that's just forming the start work really. Helps us later on. There will be a bit that comes out there, and I've got that darkish greeny black, I'll just put that one in as well. This area is your outside cylinder piston that drives your wheels. Forget exactly what they call it, I'm sure somebody will be able to tell me. And let's just try and bring some of these areas that are going to be dark up to scratch. So I'm going to leave that to dry now for a while, and once it is dry we'll move on to the next stage, which is getting a lot more detail in and getting some more tonal values in. Now this is all mostly dry, I'm going to go back to this area and start doing some darker bits on that. I'll use a smaller brush on this one, I think, so it's got a bit more of a point, this one, for detailing. And what I will do is mix up a dark colour, a very dark, if I possibly can, because these are going to be pretty strong dark statements. So I've got some black, I've got some brown, and just to make sure that it doesn't go very flat, I'm going to put a bit of blue in it. And there we got my favourite ultramarine blue, and that should give us a strong black. So let's now go to this carriage part where all the passengers go, and start putting little windows and things in. Not being overly detailed about it, although when you get to this end of the train you want to start putting various things in it that clearly identify that's what these things are. Then you do get some semblance of it being what it's supposed to be. And on top of these things they always have these like little blobs. I don't know what those blobs are. There you go. Always leaving a few little bits of light on things like that. And that pretty much is that part of the train done. I may come back once it's dried if it's a bit light, but apart from that I'm fairly much happy. I'll just do some very fine work there just to emphasise that, and then strengthen that bit there, which is the shadow that's coming off. That's a strong shadow off that, and it tapers off. Now we can move on to this bit and use that same paint and start doing bits of detailing, and this is where we start seeing some semblance of a track. Might be a bit, you won't see details with that, but there's no point in even trying to do that. I'm going to make a right flat line there, and see if I can get some more darkness in there, because I can imagine this is going to lighten up a lot. So I may have to go back over this. Now another dark area, I can see a line there, and then again I'm going to re-emphasise that that's coal, so it's going to be dark. And as we said before, this is dark as well, so I'm going to find, especially as we get farther back, that's going to be darker. Every time we go back a bit, it goes darker. Right. The gap between the tender and the cabin of the train, that's dark. This is where we have to start getting a little bit detailed, because that's a window there, and that there is a window, and a line across. One bit that we've not done yet is this see-through window here that they used to be able to see in front of the train, and that goes up to there like that. I might have to come back to this one. Maybe a line down there to define that a bit. And round here there's a little bit of a lip. Let me just soften that in a bit. A bit more. Don't want it to be too strong. And we'll deal with this area later, because it's a fairly complex bit. I just want to get this area here blocked in a bit more. That's its funnel, and it's basically quite black, that. You can't see an awful lot of it, although it's got some, the arm on the train is just in front of it there, so I'm going to leave that white, and we'll bring some more black in there, although it's not black, it's an incredibly dark colour, and bring that like that, and re-emphasise that this side of the train is very, very dark. Bring that to there and make sure we can see little bits of detailing, because there's little things that attach at the front of the train that you don't necessarily see, but we try and get it in there if we can. And that comes round, and that's actually quite dark there, and then it comes to a point there where there's a light. Now this is a key point. What happens is the green stops at a certain point and it comes around to about there. And that goes round there. And that then becomes the same kind of black that this side of the train is. If I can get a bit more black here. And that actually, that black segment comes all the way up there. Although it's not that dark at this side. So I'm just going to represent it very, very lightly. Now I need to move on to doing this area. Although this lip again, what it does is it goes like that and curves into and then it goes round. Try and keep that roundness. Bring that back on the cylinder. Don't want to be too much detail on that. Let's see if we can start blocking in some more dark areas that we know are definitely dark. Now I'm not going to do a deliberate line that's like, you just want your eyes to make it up really, the track, and not be like overly solid. That's really all I'm going to do for. I might go back over it obviously, but when it comes to the track I don't want that to be overly emphasised. It's just there really. It just needs to be there to ground the train really. And we're going to do bits of detailing stuff. And I'm not being like, oh, let's get this mechanically correct or anything like that. I'm trying to be quite free and flowing in the way I'm expressing this, but still giving it a sense of what it is. Get a bit more blue. And again, it may be the case that we might have to rework some of this once it's dry. And obviously it's going to take several layers to get to the stage where we've got the level of detail that we want. And then obviously some tonal values. I'm just going to add little bits of yellowiness just to show that there's bits where it's catching the light a little bit. And that's most of the blocking covered. Now, one thing that this train has it's got a red nameplate, or the background is red anyway, so I don't want to be overdoing this because it can be a bit in your face, that, as it's one of the few bits of red in the actual painting itself. So I'll let that dry, and if we need to weaken it a little bit, we'll see what we can do about that. But again, at this moment in time, it's a matter of waiting and seeing, and getting a little bit more in there just to make it interesting. Bit of blue there. And soften that up a bit, and we'll leave that to dry again for a short while. One of the few things that we've not done yet is the smoke that will come out of the steam train, and the best way to deal with that is it starts off quite thick and dense there, and it flows out, and as it gets more and more into the atmosphere and higher up, it gets more and more diluted and therefore more see-through. So we want it dark there and then dissipating off into the background there, and it kind of vanishes there in the actual painting. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to see if this brush will do it. It's one that's got a rake on it, a filbert with a rake. Might do it, it might not, I don't know. So I'm going to get a dark, but not too dark, just to really block it in. And I'm going to go up here, if I can hold my thing straight. Yeah, and that's creating a semi-transparent thing, and now I want to bring it closer to the train, but I want to start getting it darker in a bit. Let's see if I can get some paint on there. And it wants to go to there. And what we'll do is in bits we'll strengthen it. You can barely see it there, and we'll keep making that stronger and stronger. See if I can dissipate that a bit. And we'll leave that to dry for a bit. Okay, we're really down to the details of the painting and getting some more strengthening in the tonal value. So that's what we'll do now. Now on this part of the train here, the outer cover of the train is made up of like plates, and you can see a line. Now I'm going to suggest it but not actually paint it by just getting a really pointed brush that's wet and painting a line into it. I'll do it like this, and then you'll be able to see it once I've got some tissue paper, and you might be able to see it now, but as soon as I put the tissue paper on it, it'll come up a lot more, as you can see there. And that's what I'm going to do for that, and really that's all the detail that I want to put in that sense. So about that far, I'm going to curve that round because it is a curve. Then I'm going to bring it down a bit like that. And before it dries, and it's just a suggestion, this, really. I don't want it to over dominate. And every so often, in fact I might not do all of it like that, just a line like that. Now in a similar vein, there's a catch of light here on this curve which is interesting, that I want to make an addition to. And I'll again lift some of that up, although that's not lifting very well. So what you can do to make that look a lot lighter is make the surrounding area around it darker. I'm going to put bits of detailing in there because there is various things on there. I don't know exactly what they are, but you can't really see most of them. It's pretty silhouetted, this side of the train, and we'll continue getting these details in. It all helps with the identifying what bits of the train are, and we'll get a final few bits of interest and really dark bits that look like bits of engineering, like that. These are really just added extra bits just to add value to the painting. You don't really see that much of them. Along this rim, this is darkish. It brings it round like that. What we do need to do is give this area here of the smoke a bit more strength. So I'm going to go like that. Only for so far, and then let it go a bit dry brush, because I don't really want that to be overly dominant. And we'll come back to that probably once that's dry again, and do a little bit more. And it gives it that idea of, as it's going far away, it's dissipating, and it's a bit more transparent. But as you get closer to the train itself, where it's pummeling out there, it won't be transparent. So let's look at other areas. For example, this here, this is a number plate, so what I'm going to do, the numbers are white but the background is black, so what I'm going to do is just put little blobs in there, and it looks as though you've got some numbers there. And it's just fine little details like this that's we need to focus his attention on for a while. It might be a little bit boring this, but that's the way it goes with this kind of thing. But it does pay dividend at the end of the day when you've got a certain amount of detailing done. I'm going to put a line in there, that's quite a strong feature. There's a little dot there, don't know what that is, but I'll see if I can pull it out a bit. Yeah, it's come out a little bit. And then that's that line there. That seems to have come off it. So let's rework that. Strangely that goes dark, I don't know why. Let's blend that in a little bit. Something else I want to blend is this a little bit more, because it just doesn't look natural enough. So I'm going to get some green. That's a little bit better. Because it's not actually blue, the terrain, it's a very, like a racing car green. See if I can lift some of that. And then I want to reinforce that idea that there's soot on top of the on top there. And go back to getting some more darks in. So again, that's remembering that this here is painted in like black. I'm going to paint around that light, and while we're there I'm going to remember to make a little shape there that is similar to that there, which is the other light at the other side, although it's a little bit high. That, let's see if I can make an adjustment. Just go across and I'll put it there. You only need to suggest it. And I'll nip that off. There you go. And it's little bits like that that we're really working on. You know, there's some sort of cable in there that you can just see little bits of light of. and something coming down there, a bit more water in it. And keep working at that one and getting it a bit more defined. I don't think I'm that far off completing this. I'm sure there are other things if I went back later on and had a good look that they'd be glaringly obvious that I needed to do, but you can do that after. I mean, this is just a video to show you what to do, so I'm going to remind myself of that. A bit more dark in it. And I'm feeling like I'm getting quite close to the end, but one thing I have got to do that I've not done yet is put some little dots here to represent the numbers. They're not on the original, it's like a gold on red background, but for the purposes of this painting it's just to indicate that it's a number plate. And I'm gonna, there is a thin long line there. I think I might indicate the lines that we did earlier. Just one or two more bits and bobs of detailing to do. Little bit there like that. And it's down to bits of toning in certain areas. And this is where you really need to start making a decision as to how much more work you put into it, because it's getting to the stage where I'm thinking much more and you'll start making it look overworked. So time to start tying certain areas in of the painting, the foreground painting, into areas that might be slightly connected to it in the background or in the surrounding ground around it. It's only very light stuff, it just helps with the connectivity of the painting. I will put a slightly stronger bit in there. Colour that in a little bit. And feather that out a bit with some water. bit stronger there at the bottom there to make sure that you know that it's, because it looks a little bit blue to me, like, but we'll there you go. And as far as I'm concerned, this is the vast majority of this. It's done now. I'm going to use this one and see if we can get some more interesting textures in the area. Just in areas that it's a little bit blank. And areas where you might see little bits of detailing. And I think as far as it goes, I think that's probably where I'm going to leave it. So what have we done then? We've done as background in our first part of the video. If you want to go back and look at that and see how we did that, I'll put a link to this first part of the video, and we undercoloured it with browns and reds and sandy colours to make sure that this green here looks like vegetation. And then we moved on to painting the actual train itself. Now this is a man-made object, obviously, and the green that I use for that and the actual green that is used for this train is a much more man-made green. So although this is very dominated by greens and blues, it doesn't overpower the painting, because it's not all one green. It's got like this man-made kind of green and these other greens and yellows and complementary colours around it. So I hope that these last two videos have been helpful to you in some way, and you've got something from them. And we'll move on to our next painting the next time we're available to do a painting. So we'll see you later on, and keep on painting. It's not always easy, but if you keep working at it, you'll get there in the end. See you later. Bye.